Hello and welcome to the All to Play For podcast. I'm your co-host Charlie Horner, joined today by my other co-host Kieran Lawler.
Hello.
So this podcast is obviously new football podcast. Going to release in episodes every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you're following us and subscribe to us on all the kind of formats, so you know what when to join us. For our first one today, we're going to be discussing the EFL Championship League Table predictions as the upcoming campaign begins next weekend.
I think it's the most difficult league to predict. Just literally anybody can beat anybody. So if we are drastically wrong come around about May next year, just forget this ever happened and we'll move straight on.
I was going to say, I reckon we'll be wrong by about September.
Literally. First game of the season, every single prediction is wrong.
Yeah. So just to begin, the kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. What do you think in terms of the teams down at the bottom? How do you? We'll start off with the promoted clubs.
I was going to say,
and see it, and we'll discuss how they're going to fare.
To be fair, in my prediction, they do make up a chunk of that bottom half of the table. Spoiler, all three of them do, because it's always a stereotype to say, oh, the newly promoted clubs, just because they're newly promoted, they're going to struggle, which it's not always the case. I mean, Sheffield United came up and stabilised and then went straight to the Premier League. But this year, with the three that have come up, I think I don't see enough strength in their areas, and I feel people have plucked their best players from them, and it's going to be hard to rebuild their squad and rejuvenate for another season.
Yeah, well, let's start on the playoff winning side, Charlton.
Where have you placed them in your table?
Bottom.
Oh, I haven't. I've got them surviving.
Oh wow!
But in that last surviving, literally probably surviving on the last day by goal difference. Go on, tell me why you've placed them bottom.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of reasons. Primarily because I didn't think they particularly stood out last season in League One. They had a good run at the end of the season, which that basically got them into the playoffs and consolidated them. They do have some good talent in there. But for me, it's a lack of stability in the club. Obviously, they almost lost Lee Bowyer over the summer. Managed to keep him. He ended up signing a new contract, but I think there's a real issue with the ownership in the club. But for me, the main reason is the loss of a lot of quality players and the lack of bringing considerable quality in. So they've lost Joe Aribo, who I was a really massive fan of. He's gone up to Rangers. They've lost Patrick Bauer, who's gone to Preston. I think they've lost Jason Pearce. I think if they've released him, and obviously Bielik has gone back to Arsenal. Yeah. And that's a considerable part of the spine of the side, and I just feel like there's a massive weakness there, and they haven't really managed to close that or fill that gap.
Yeah, but I have meant like they've not spent a lot, and they've lost their better players from last season that got them into the position they were in. Even Bauer scored the winning goal and he's gone. But one thing that swerved it a little bit was they've bought players that they have knowledge of from League One and League Two, in the sense of Lockyer, the centre back.
He's very good, to be fair.
Bought him, I think, probably to replace Bauer. Yeah. They've brought in Bon from League One and Aneki, who's a striker from League One. I think he plays the second striker role.
Yeah, they're quite good players. I know Bon, they brought in from Leyton Orient, who had a really good season in the conference last year. And I think Chuck Saniki from MK Dons.
Yes, yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think he was the top goal scorer of one of the top goal scorers in League Two, behind James Norwood last season. So they brought in some good lower league players.
I feel like for me, one thing is now they've kept Lee Bowyer on. Is the players that have been there all the time, they know him, and I feel for some reason with Charlton and probably with the state of the club, I feel like they will fight for the badge and they will fight for Lee Bowyer. So I think it, as difficult as it has been for them, it has been a difficult summer for them, and I don't think they've strengthened as much as they like for a newly promoted side. I think, do you know what? I feel they've got a bit of steel about them, as Lebo, you probably did as a player. And I feel that's just going to get them just sneaking out of that relegation zone. But there's a questionable one I've popped in the relegation zone, and we'll get to that one later.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I just think they might not. They might just not have enough. They might have the spirit, but I think yeah, I've got them. I've a swift return to League One.
But they have got Lyle Taylor, and I love Lyle Taylor. If there's one thing you know, I do love Lyle Taylor.
He's gonna score some goals, and I don't think he'll be there in 12 months' time. Now moving on to the second promoted club, Barnsley. Where did you get them in your table?
Bottom.
Wow.
The 24th spot. And there is a reason, and it's not because I don't believe in Barnsley. I'm sure they could do fantastic. However, my worry is with them. For one is Daniel Stendel. Not that I'm worried about it. He clearly proved his acumen last year by getting them out of the League One. However, a little bit inexperienced, and obviously he came from the Bundesliga. He came from Hanover. They might have been in Bundesliga 2 at the time. But so that worries me slightly. And the main worry for me was the defence, because they lost the two centre-backs. Pinnock, you said, to Brentford.
Yeah.
And Liam Lindsay to Stoke. And who they brought in is a young centre-back, I think he's 21 years old. Anderson from AC Horsens. I don't know anything. I'll be honest, I'm not going to pretend I watch that league because I don't. So I don't know much about it. And I was looking at their squad. They don't have a centre-back, I think, or they don't have a defender over the age of 25, which worries me because that is a young, inexperienced defence. And for example, if they go through troubled times, who in that back four of very young players is going to grab everyone by the scruff of the neck and going, come on, we can go through this? As much as I love youth, and I do think it should be a mainstay, I feel like it's too young and too inexperienced of a back four, or however Daniel Stendel plays this year in the Championship.
Okay, well, I'm going to tell you why I've got Barnsley to stay up comfortably in 17th place. They were the best footballing side in League One last year by some way. They played some brilliant stuff, and they scored goals. And like as you say, the defence is a bit inexperienced and whatnot, but they will outscore teams. They've got Corley Woodrow up front. They've got Kiefer Moore, who's had a bad injury, but once he's back from that, he will score goals in that league. And they've also brought in Connor Chaplin from Coventry, who is very highly rated, and he will contribute with some goals. And with you know, they have lost Pinnock and Lindsay, and the replacements might not be household names. However, I feel like Barnsley, especially with the move to Daniel Stendel, have changed their business model to buy cheap and sell on for hire, kind of in a similar way that Brentford have done their business over the last few years. But I just think that they'll stay up quite comfortably just because of the goal scoring prowess, and it's going to be a case of you score 3, we'll score 5.
I was going to say they had brought in Thomas from Derby, who's another young player, but I know he was loaned to Coventry last year, so they'll know about him. So as I say, the only thing that made me put them that low is, of course, they can outscore teams, but that can only get you so far. There is going to be resolute defences that they can't quite break down, and I think it's just that defence for me is the big worry. That's all. Yeah,
no, I can understand. But swiftly moving on to the champions of League One, Luton Town, who, despite losing the manager Nathan Jones over the course of the season, they now have Graham Jones.
I was going to say, is this the one that came in January?
No. They, I think they quite recently appointed him because they had a caretaker for the rest of the season.
Right, okay, so it's not Graham that won in League One.
But I believe it's Graham Jones who has been assistant manager at West Brom, and he's quite highly rated. Now, I've got him in. Where did you put them in your table?
Showing no love to the promoted sides. 23rd.
Beautiful. I've put them in 20th, so I've got them to stay up, but by the scruff.
So you've got them where I put Charlton.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I've put Charlton in 24th, Luton in 20th, and Barnsley in 17th.
Barnsley 24th, Luton 23rd, Charlton 21.
So a successful season for the promoted clubs. But just touching on Luton, I do think it's gonna be a tough season. Don't get me wrong. And they have obviously lost probably the two key players, best players in Jack Stacey and James Justin for a combined £12 million, which is a lot of money. So my theory is they could reinvest a lot of that into some good experienced Championship players, which they have done. If you look at some of the business they have done, they've brought in Ryan Tunnicliffe, who has been playing in the Championship for years and has done very well with Millwall, with Blackburn, with Fulham, etc. They've brought in Callum McManaman from Wigan on a free transfer. He's a very good, pacey right winger. Could really get him up the pitch. He's a good replacement for for the two players down the right hand side who they've just lost. And they've also brought in Brendan Galloway, and he's struggled in the Championship in the past with Sunderland. But overall, I'd say that's a great sign. As a trio of signings, that's really good. And they've got the goal scoring ability of James Collins and Elliot Lee, who both were quite high up in the goal scoring charts in League One last year. I just think they can do it. I think it's one of those where there's three worse teams, in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, I completely understand it. As I say, they have, for example, the one big thing for me was the selling of the two players, key players, arguably the most crucial players. Yes, they've got 12 million. I don't actually think they've spent any on transfers though. I don't think they've spent a thing yet, which again, the problem with doing this podcast before the season is there is still 14 days of the transfer window. Lots of things can change, as some of our picks will depend on, I'm sure, in the future. But as you said, I like McManaman. I liked him when I think Wigan were in the Premier League, and I think during that magical FA Cup run, I thought he was fantastic. And they've signed people from the Championship, which were in relegation battles with Sunderland, which arguably they lost that battle quite pitifully. But it will always aid the fight when people who know the league, they know what they've got to do to get each other through it. And I do think it's going to help. But just that loss of two key players to the squad, I think is going to... And it's not... With it being Graham Jones and not what got them the league, I think it's going to maybe a different style of play. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So if that's the promoted teams dealt with, your fates have been sealed.
According to me, you're all going down, apart from one.
I'd just like to touch on some of the other teams that we think are going to be in and around the relegation places.
This is where my bold choice comes in.
I was going to say, who's your other side in the relegation zone?
It's very bold. Birmingham.
I've agreed. I've got Birmingham in 23rd.
Wow, I've got them in 22nd. I thought that was a bold move. I think.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk?
Yeah. You take.
I was going to say, they've got Pep Clotet, who was their head coach and I think has been upped to the manager. But again, it's the losing of the players because they've lost Che Adams, which was, let's be honest, all of their goals, and they've lost Jota, which was probably all of their assists.
Yeah.
So they haven't brought in anybody else. Clark Salter from Chelsea on loan.
I can vouch for he's not a good footballer. apparently he's had a good year out on loan at Vita Sanum, and he's the captain of the England under-21s and stuff, and he comes highly rated from Chelsea. But take it from me, I watched this kid 40 odd times. Well, no, it wasn't 40 odd times. I watched him for 6 months in a Sunderland shirt. Okay, maybe you can say he was coming into a losing team, but he wasn't very good at football. I might be proven wrong this season, but yeah.
I think that is a worry, and they brought in Gardner. I don't know if their plan is to buy every Gardner that has existed and put them in the midfield, and it might stop some goals, but I worry for Birmingham this year. And I thought it was a bold move, but it looks like you agree with me on this one.
Yeah. I've literally on my notes I've said loss of Jota and Adams removes a lot of goals and creativity.
That is, I think, that is the big killer for them, and I don't think the defence is good enough, for example, to grind out a 0-0 because they can't score a goal. They've got Lucas Jukovic, if that's how you say it.
He had a decent season last season.
I think he's all right, mate.
And I do like some of the midfielders. I do like the two Gardeners.
Yeah.
Especially if Gary can keep fit, because he's had a lot of injuries over the last few years. But if he can keep fit, I feel like the midfield is quite good. I just don't think they can score enough goals or keep enough goals out of their own net to stay up.
It's one of them where I think the moment they concede, can you trust for example, in any game where they go 1-0 down, can you trust them to turn it around and make it 2-1 by the end of the game, or even 1-1? I just don't think you can, unless they reinvest the Che Adams and the Jota money. Jota admittedly only went for around 5 million, I think, but that combined fee to not really spend any of it, I think they're going to really struggle this year.
Yeah, and my other relegated team is Wigan. I just think there's a real lack of creativity and goals in that side at the minute. They've been linked with Jamal Lowe from Portsmouth, and if they manage to get that one over the line, then I'd be impressed, because he's a very good player. However, I feel like the loss of Nick Powell, and if you look at some of the transfer business, they haven't really done too much in terms of bringing in real quality. I like David Marshall, as you'll know, between the sticks. I think he'll be a good addition, but no, for me, and I like Paul Cook. I think he's a really good coach, really good manager. He's got the best out of that squad for a couple of years now. I just think this season will be too much for Wigan. I think they'll just drop.
No, I was going to say, no surprise, they are down there. They're 19th, so
Okay.
they'll be in with the fight. One of the big reasons I put them up there is Paul Cook, because he's kept them up once. The squad know him, and as I say, keeping them up last year was quite tough with that squad. I don't think it's a squad like blessed with amazing talent across the whole pitch. They're always going to be down there. I think bringing Tyrese Robinson in permanently, it's a good move, because they know him from last year where he spent last time on loan, and obviously David Marshall. I think, is it Lewis McLeod has also come in?
Yeah.
So with them, but they have lost a lot of players. They lost Powell, they lost McManaman, they lost Vaughan. They lost Grigg at the back end of last year. It's another one where I struggle to see goals, and that's why they're down there for me.
Yeah, I think they'll drop. Other teams that I am looking at in terms of they could be struggling. Reading, who I've got in 21st. I like the manager. And they've got some good young players. I like Danny Loader. I think he's quite a good young prospect. But and they brought in Matt Miazga back on loan. I think he is a good defender. But again, I just don't really see where the goals are coming from, and that's probably going to damage him. But it's in a similar case to Luton. I think there's 3 worse teams.
I've got Reading a little bit higher up, 17th, but they are obviously, it's hard in the Championship because they're all down there technically. But,
yeah.
The manager for me, you couldn't have a more bipolar manager if you tried, because I've looked at his history. He kept them up last year, but only winning 25% of the games, and he played quite a few. He only won a quarter of them. He drew a lot of games. And throughout his career, I think there is a couple of jobs where he's had a 0% win ratio.
Wow.
After 5 games, I think he got sacked at a club. But he's also, I think he managed somewhere and he got up to 50% win ratio. That manager, if he gets it going, can keep them up. However, if it goes the other side and he doesn't get his views across, I think it could be a tough year for Reading. And I think the signings they've brought in, Miazga's a good one, but they've also signed Adam and Michael Morrison. They're experienced, but they're aging legs, and the Championship is grueling. There's 2 games a week, like between Saturday and obviously Tuesdays as well. But they haven't lost anyone really from last year. They've lost the inconsistent Jon Daddy Bodvarsson, who I'm going to get to later when we talk about a different team, and they've lost Liam Kelly as well. So it's much similar to the back end of last year. But also, it depends on what side of the manager we see, the 0% win ratio side or the 50% win ratio side.
Yeah, I agree. A couple of other teams that we can have a little chat about. I've got QPR and Millwall in 18th and 19th respectively. Don't get me wrong with QPR. And in fact, for both of these sides, I really like the managers, and they could really prove me wrong and be much further up the table. But I just don't see enough quality in both their sides. I really like Esse. I don't know. I can't. Easy.
Yeah, catch you easy.
Yeah, I like him. But they've lost Luke Freeman to Sheffield United, and they're not really bringing in the kind of names that excite me. And Millwall is a bit similar. They've lost Lee Gregory to Stoke. do like the sign of Matt Smith from QPR.
They've also lost Steve Morrison, who was a big leader in the dressing room.
Yeah.
I think I'm 100% sure he was club captain.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah. And Sonny Cliff's gone as well. So I think they're going to struggle. But they'll stay up. They'll be fine.
I've got Millwall in 20th, and the only thing that's making me think Millwall will just get themselves out of it. Neil Harris has kept them up twice now. Varying success, because the first year they went on a run to nearly the playoffs, and last year they really struggled. They brought in Mahoney, who played 30 times for Birmingham last year, so he's experienced in the Championship. He knows how it is to play week in, week out. Pace on free from Derby. Good signing, I think. Good experience. But, again, it's the goals, and they brought in Bodvarsson. Interesting stat on Bodvarsson. Has only ever scored 7 goals in the Championship. He doesn't go past 7. He doesn't go before 7. He has only he's been here 2 seasons, and he's stopped at 7 at both seasons. Which for me, at this level, you need a striker scoring goals.
That's when I do quite like Matt Smith, and he's one of those where you can just lob the ball into him.
Yeah.
He suits that Millwall mold. I said in my notes, Matt Smith is the most typical Millwall signing ever. And obviously, with the creativity and the quality that Jed Wallace has, I think they'll. And I think
Mahoney on the wing can whip a good ball into him, win some headers. So that's them 20th, and your other one was QPR.
Yeah.
They're actually reasonably mid-table in mine. 15th.
Okay.
And the reason is Mr. Mark Warburton. He is the reason that they are going to finish, I believe, quite high in this table. They may not have the best squad, but I honestly believe he's a great manager, and I think he's a great Championship manager. I like the signing. I like Johan Barbe from Brentford, and I also like that he's brought Lee Wallace from Rangers, because Lee Wallace, even though he won't come in and be a captain, he's been the captain for Rangers through down in the trenches and back up. So that's a good little leader in the dressing room. But I do think the loss of Freeman and Furlong will really hurt them, because Freeman is versatile. And I've always said if I was a manager, I would sign him at any Championship club, or as Premier League as he has now. And there was an interesting signing for QPR, their striker, that they've just got, I think it was yesterday, from Brighton, who was on loan at Maribor last year. I think I wrote it down because I don't know. Malaka. He's been on loan at Maribor, and he's always averaged in his career, when he's been on loan at Maribor, 1 in 2. Which, how that will translate to the Championship is always difficult, but a goal is clearly a man who knows where the net is. Because if you're scoring 1 in 2, that's a decent record for a striker.
That is a good record, yeah.
So he's in loan from Brighton, much unknown because he's never played in a league like this, I don't think, before. But I think if he gets going and he can get even 15 goals for them this year, that's where I think with Warburton and players like Ikechi Eze, QPR will be okay, I think.
Yeah, that seems fine. Now I feel like we've covered most of the teams that are going to be down there, unless you have a couple more.
We'll run through them all at the end, but the one that is down, for example, we've literally spoke about all mine from 17 downwards. The only one missing from that bunch, we'll go through it all at the end, by the way.
We'll sum it up.
18th, Blackburn Rovers.
My word. I have them considerably higher than that.
And there is reasons.
Okay.
Tony Mowbray is a good manager. I'll be honest, he's a good manager. I have looked at the squad. It's alright, Bradley Dack, they've still got him, which is fantastic. They spent $5 million on Sam Gallagher, which I think is a good signing, but it's a gamble signing, because that is a big lump of money to spend on a man who's been at Southampton, and he's been alright, and I'm sure, but I've not seen him play enough to, like, that price tag on him, for example. And they've lost their starting goalkeeper, Raya, to a rival in Brentford. To be honest, I don't know why I put them down here. I just look at the squad, and they were alright last year at the start, and then I think they tailed off and they ended up towards mid-table, towards the bottom. I think they'll stay up, but I just think they're going to be down there just purely due to the strength of the squad. I just don't think it's there.
Okay. But I've got Blackburn in 9th.
Oh really? Okay. Well, this is our first big.
Yeah, I'm backing them. I'm backing them to really push for those playoff spots. To be honest, I really like they've got a lot of good, young, hungry, and quality players in that squad. And I do like the Sam Gallagher signing. He did spend a season on loan a couple of years ago. I think it might have been the League One season.
I was going to say I only remember him making some appearances for Southampton. I don't remember that for me is how is he going to translate into this league? And
yeah,
for example, if he does struggle, then that's not 5 mil wasted. I don't like to say wasted on players, but that's 5 mil that could have been gone elsewhere.
Yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of goals in that side. If you look at the striking options, Danny Graham, you got Adam Armstrong, you've got Ben Braverton.
I do like Armstrong and Brereton.
And you're adding Gallagher into that. They're going to score goals, and obviously with the creativity and the quality that Bradley Dack has, as long as they can keep him, because obviously at the time of recording, there's still 2 weeks where potentially someone could pick him up. But if they can keep him, they're going to score goals. And I like the experience that they've added into the side with Bradley Johnson and Stuart Downing. They've got really good quality fullbacks who are really going to help the game because they get the ball up the pitch quickly. Lewis Travis, I'm a really big fan of him. He's very versatile, and he's just signed a new contract this week. I think he's going to really step up this season. But yeah, I don't see why they can't push for the playoffs. I really think Tony Mowbray has got a good steady ship there. I think they're ready to push.
That's the first one that we've really literally pulled up. But you know what? It's the championship, and I may be really, really wrong.
So yeah, that's kind of that's all the teams that we've got kind of at the bottom.
I was going to say that's pretty much for me 17 down to 24.
Yeah, I've got everyone down from 17th to 24th. So we're kind of veering into mid-table territory now, you could say.
Yeah. Do you want to go there, or do you want to go to the top, and then we'll finish on the old clustering in the middle?
I think we should end with the
big boys.
The big boys, yeah.
Right.
So who have you got in 16th?
Preston North End.
Wow.
Preston North End.
Oh, okay.
I've got a feeling this is where we are differing.
This is different.
Alex Neil, great manager.
Yeah.
Great manager. Not gonna lie. They've got a big squad. At I think it was 34 players that they've got. So they can rotate if they fancy it. Bringing in Bauer and Nugent, I think Bauer's the big one. I think Nugent's obviously there to chip in off the bench, probably. I can imagine. I don't think he's going to start him again. But they have lost Callum Robinson to the Premier League, which is a big loss. And as much as I do like Alex Neil, I don't think he's going to be pushing for playoffs, and I just think it's mid-table for Preston this year, to be honest. Oh, I am getting daggers here.
When I said I've got some big calls, I said I think Preston could sneak in that playoff, the last playoff spot. But I'll come on to that and my reasoning.
Yes,
reasoning later.
Who is your 16th?
My 16th place, and I don't think you're going to enjoy this very much. I put Hull 16th.
No, that's okay because they're coming up soon. So.
Look, they've made a solid appointment in Grant McCann. He gets the best out of players. That Doncaster side last year was decent, but it wasn't. You wouldn't look at it on paper and go, "Oh, they get playoffs," but they did, and they narrowly missed out to Charlton.
That's what makes, for example, these championship predictions so difficult. Is because last year when you looked at the pre-season, you wouldn't have put Doncaster in and around this area. So who knows who makes a run this year? But we do continue. So.
Yeah. So I do think he's the kind of manager who can get the best out of players. And obviously with Hull, you're really, really, really reliant on those two wide players, Grosicki and Bowen. And if one of them or both of them was to leave, I would be very, very worried. But if you look at, I really like the signing of Tom Eaves. I think he can go on and get 10 league goals. Because he really brings a different dynamic to the side that you didn't really have. You've not really had in a while, really. You've never really had a big presence up front, maybe since like Nick Proschwitz.
That was going to be my
But Tom Eaves is really good, and I'm going to use a really big cliche, but he's got a great touch for a big lad. He really does. He's not just like a Matt Smith where you just lump the ball up to him and hope that it just bounces off him into the goal. He really does bring. He runs into the channels quite well, and I think everyone's probably seen his goal against, I think it was against Portsmouth last year, where he just brought it down on the chest, turned and volleyed it in. But yeah, he's going to be a good player. But I do worry if you lose Bowen or Grosicki in the next 2 weeks.
Because I put.
I was going to say you're a Hull fan.
Because I put Preston in 16th. It does lead on because QPR was obviously my 15th. 14th is Hull City. Yeah. I'm a Hull City fan, but I'm not an unrealistic Hull City fan. I'm not going to say we're going to get promoted. Grant McCann, I'll be honest, I've got to admit, great appointment in my opinion. He suits us down to the ground for all the wrong reasons. Because he's got to be successful on a small budget is basically what I've summed it up as, and successful with a squad that shouldn't really be up there. Because the Allams, I'm not going to swear on the podcast, but the Allams are not very nice people. So he's going to have a tough window, and he will. Tafazoli, everyone we've signed has been on a free or for loan. So Tafazoli for free.
I like that. He was solid.
Apparently, from what I've seen from Peterborough fans, he was probably their best defender. Yeah. So I'm excited about that signing. Obviously, we've also got, I'm going to speak in depth. I'm sorry, but it's because of the team. We've got Burke and Device, which I think are good enough centre backs. They were starting last year, and we went on a good, I think it was 13 games without losing. So as you said, Tom Eaves, nobody scored more League One goals in the last 2 years, is it, than him?
Yeah.
So I do love good stats, and I think he's absolutely class. I think it depends if he hits the ground running, because you can't always rely on Nuadiko for goals, sadly. And I have mentioned the reason I've got them 14th. They could drop lower, as sad as I am to admit, if Grosicki or Bowen leaves. I've just wrote that Grosicki and Bowen futures are unclear.
Yeah, you're too reliant on them, and similarly, if they were to leave, if one of them was to get injured for a significant amount of time, I'd worry again.
And I've been saying to you, I think it's been a decent window, a central player, and covering the fullback area, and I think 14th is fine for us this year. I don't think we'll get relegated. I think we've got. I think it might be close, but
I think you might have a few worries or nerves in some parts of the season, but I think you'll shake it off, and you'll be fine.
Super grand
as Kieran kisses the badge on his shirt.
Yes.
See, my next team in 15th, I'm really this. Do you know what I was saying off air that there's a few teams where I don't know what they could go down, they could make the playoffs. So in my 15th position, I've got Sheffield Wednesday. They don't have a manager. They don't have a manager, and Steve Bruce did in the, I think it was the 18 games he had, did reasonably well. They made a late push for the playoffs, really.
I've put them 13th, and I have written manager Lee Bullen in brackets, kind of.
Kind of.
Kind of. He is kind of the manager, but not quite.
And there's a few other worries, not just about the manager at Sheffield Wednesday. They are kind of restricted in what they can do in the transfer market. In fact, they have to get EFL special approval to sign a player for a fee. Other than that, they're going to have to rely on frees and loans. I think there's some off the pitch issues as well regarding the sale of the stadium as well. I just feel like there's not a good vibe around the club at the minute, and they could prove me wrong if they get the managerial appointment right. I'm not.
They may keep Lee Bullen, kind of.
They may kind of. Yeah, I just think 15th.
You continue with your 14th until you catch up to where Sheffield Wednesday are in mine, because they are coming up soon. So who's your 14th?
Swansea.
Right, okay. No worries, that's where I put Hull. So
okay, yeah.
You can talk about Swansea and I'll get to them when I get to them.
Yeah. Swansea, they've appointed Steve Cooper as their manager. Bit of an unknown quantity, because he's not managed at this level before, but he has got a reputation for nurturing young talent, which is something that Swansea heavily rely on.
This is his first This is his first senior team job.
Yeah.
He's only ever been an academy manager, so it is it's not an interesting step up in leagues. It's also an interesting step up in group of play. This is the only time he's ever had to manage someone over 17.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like he fits in with the Swansea philosophy. They do typically. Oh well, since the relegation, they've heavily relied on younger talent. But I think it's going to be a bang average season for Swansea. Loss of James to Man United, the potential loss of Ollie McBurney, who's been linked with a few Premier League clubs, really removes goals. I just think this is the season to consolidate for Swansea. And if they can get a mid-table finish, potentially have a decent transfer window next year, then they can start to push further up the leagues. I just think Swansea will lack the goals to really pull up any trees this season.
They're in and around it for me. You're 13th because that's where I've put Sheffield Wednesday.
Okay, Huddersfield.
Right, okay, yeah.
Actually, yeah, they've brought in Tommy Elphick, really like.
I was about to say that. That's a big one.
Good championship experience for him. And I really like Carlin Grant. I think he's got a big season. I think it's going to be a big breakthrough season. I mean, he did really well in League One for the first half of last season, and then when he joined Huddersfield, I think he ended up being the joint top goal scorer, and he was only there for half the season.
Well, they've got rid of De Poitre, I know that, but they've kept Mooney. I think, to be honest, at this level, they could do all right.
Yeah, I think there's going to be goals from it. So potentially, I could be really wrong with this, but because they'll score goals. Again, much like Swansea, I think they're going to come down. They're going to consolidate this season and maybe push on next season. I feel like there's a bit of a losing mentality at the club at the minute that needs to be shifted. Obviously, we can't really judge the manager Jan Seward from the half season he had because, well, let's face it, they were never good enough for the Premier League. So yeah, Huddersfield, 13th.
I've got them outside the playoffs. I've got them in 9th. I think it is because of that goals, and I think from what I do like about Huddersfield with some relegated clubs is they've kept a real core of that team. They haven't really lost anyone. I think they've lost Tommy Smith, is it?
Yeah.
And I think that's the only player they've lost. They've kept Moy, they've kept Hogg, they've kept Mounier. Obviously, there's a few that have gone on free, but they were never first teams. Lossell is a big loss. Lossell, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, expect many really bad puns from Kieran throughout this podcast.
That's a big Lossell, I'll tell you. But him going to Everton free, great signing for Everton because he's always a great backup goalkeeper. But that's going to be a big miss for Huddersfield. But I do think that they've kept the core group together, so Jan Sievert's got to know them. Know them players from the back end of last season and into this season. So he's had a good summer to get them playing his style of play, and I don't think they'll have enough in the squad to get out because, in my opinion, they never should have got out in the first place.
Yeah, they're extremely lucky, weren't they?
Well, David Wagner did a fantastic job.
He did, yeah.
But they are outside the playoffs and they are sitting in that 9th, so they're above mid-table, but they won't go into that.
You've got them where I had Blackburn.
Oh right. Well, we've spoken length about Blackburn.
Yeah, mid-table for me, and then there's another team. Wait, who did you get in? Who did you have in 13th?
Sheffield Wednesday.
Sheffield Wednesday.
What did I write about Sheffield Wednesday down here? They've let a lot of older players leave. Gary Hooper, Alman Abdi, Daniel Pudel, and obviously Boyd. But I do like the signing of Odebaggio for free.
That is.
Didn't like what he did to us, but apart from that, I mean, he's a good player.
Very good attacking fullback.
And they've signed an interesting player, Barner from Bundesliga 2. Average of 7.0 last year in the Bundesliga 2, so clearly a consistent man, and he's good in the air, so he wins his aerial battles, which is quite nice for a good centre half. So I think they'll be okay, but just a solid mid-table side.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Again, I only put this team here in 12th because I literally don't know much. Nottingham Forest.
This is the first position we have identical. I have put Nottingham Forest in 12th place as well.
Do you want to?
They don't finish in 12th.
yeah. Do you want to just take the floor with Forest? Because I didn't really have much to say.
I was going to say, I feel like, in terms of Nottingham Forest, manager, Sabri Lamucci. I did some diving. 38% win percentage in Ligue 1 before we got replaced at Stade Rennais. And I was going to say, because I saw Stade Rennais against Arsenal, and I thought, if he's the same manager that managed them, I thought, that's a cracking pickup. But no, it wasn't. He got sacked by that point. They've lost the loanies from last season. Pele, I mean, he's a big loss. One of the best players to ever grace the football pitch, Pele.
Rather old though, which is a bit interesting.
Yeah, they brought in an interesting contingent from Portugal. Semedo, Silva and Yuri, all from, I think it was Benfica and Ferrerense. So it'll be interesting because when you sign foreign players, it's difficult to see how they're going to adapt. So they've signed 3 of them, so one of them's got to be good.
Yeah, surely.
So the law of they've also signed 2 wide players for free who I do like, Sami Amiobi and Albert Adoma.
Yeah.
I think that is... They've played in the Championship before, and I think they are good signings. I just don't know enough about them.
They're a very, very unknown quantity going into this year, because as you say, the wide talent they've brought in is good. And they're probably going to score quite a few goals, because obviously Lewis Graben is if you want a proven goal scorer in the Championship, my go-to player would probably be Lewis Graben. He's consistently scored plenty of goals in this league before, but it's just I don't know how the manager's going to set up. I don't know anything about him, so I don't know whether he could be sacked by Christmas. He could be.
And a deal has just been agreed for Nottingham Forest midfielder Ben Osborne.
That was what I was gonna move on to that.
Literally I've just seen that on Sky Sports there.
He's a big loss because I do really like him. I think it's Sheffield United, right?
I don't know. I don't actually quite grasp on that.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and he'd be a good addition to their squad. But yeah, I just placed him in the middle because I can't say too much of an unknown quantity. But now, as we swiftly carry on into the top half of the division,
I was going to say my 11th was. Have you said Swansea yet? You have.
I've said Swansea. I had them in 14th.
Swansea are my 11th. I'll just quickly brief over it because you've already got it.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a first senior role for Steve Cooper, I think you can't promise to be pushing for playoffs yet. They've lost Boney, Fur, Narsing, and Daniel James. From what I see from Bonnie, Narsing and James, there's a lot of creativity and a lot of goals from, well, not anymore, but Bonnie was a big goal scorer and he is always a threat. And Leroy Fur, I think, is going to be probably their biggest miss.
I think, for me, I think it's good management from board level, because I think there's a clear need to lower the wage bill.
Yes.
Because as the parachute payments they diminish, then they're going to struggle with those big wages, the Premier League wages, really, that we were spending on Leroy Fur, Narsing, and Wilfred Boney.
They've just lost Ayew as well to Crystal Palace, I think.
Yeah, that's another one.
So
he
might have been on a wage.
He would have been on a Premier League wage as well. But he was on loan there last year as well, weren't he? Anyway, so
now, I think,
yeah. But I think it is just Swansea just cutting that wage bill, rebuilding a bit, placing the faith in younger players, and they're probably I'm mid-table and a big push next season.
Who's your 11th? Is it already mentioned or?
No, my 11th position is Middlesbrough.
My 10th.
Yeah, these kind of teams kind of just place themselves in these kind of positions. Jonathan Woodgate, I like it. It's one for the fans because he's obviously a club legend.
I was going to say inverted
commas. But yeah, he's a bit of a hero up there, and he's got Robbie Keane on his coaching staff. So I mean, good luck to him. I feel like the main aim is to just to get a more attractive style of play, because a couple of years of Tony Pulis can get extremely boring. So I think the fans just want to see good football, entertaining, attacking play. And to be fair, they could do with the players that they've got. They're always going to score goals. And I like the defence. The very strong defence. I really like George Friend, who's just taken over the captaincy.
I was going to say the only one that worries me is the loss of Aidan Flint. I like Aidan Flint as an experienced centre half, and but yeah, they're in 10th for me as well. For much similar, there's not massive changes in at that club at the moment. There's no one in, there's no one out really.
I feel like they've got a good squad. They don't really need too much.
Exactly, that's what
like they could make a push for. I think they will make a push for the playoffs, but they'll just. I don't think they'll
peter out towards it.
Yeah, I don't think the squad is particularly massive. But when you've got Britta Sombolonga up front, you've always got a chance of nicking a 1-0, especially with the strong defence that they do have.
I do like Britta Sombolonga.
So yeah, they're my 11th position.
And they were my 10th, so your 10th?
My 10th, Derby.
Yeah, okay.
Now, if you would have said to me, you're going to appoint Philip Cocu, and you have last season's squad, I'd potentially say, okay, well, we're talking high playoffs, potentially automatic, but it's the squad. It's so depleted from last season. The loss of all these lone players, Tomori, Mount, Wilson. Those are 3 really important players for him last season who contributed to a lot. They've also lost Bradley Johnson in the midfield.
Craig
Bryson's left, who's been there for forever.
Nugent is
David Nugent's gone. So it's not only the young lone players, it's some of the most influential, experienced players in the dressing room.
Pearce that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Olsen, the fullback.
I've got to say, it's a bit worrying. If I was a Derby fan, I'd be a bit worried.
Cole's contract ended. Obviously, I don't think they were keeping Cole on anyway.
Yeah. For me, I really like the manager. He's done really well in the past, but they need to get a squad together really, because they've brought in Kieran Dowell. I think it's
I like
from Everton on loan. I think that
he was on loan at Forest, so he again, it's all for me. He's one of them. He knows the league, and
yeah,
I do rate Kieran Dowell. I think he's a good attacking midfielder, and I think he'll bring some good range of passing and some good creativity.
Yeah,
I can't. I'll be honest though. As I say with Derby, they've lost a lot of experience, and that squad that they had last year, it's not the same. And I don't think Philip Koku's made the squad his own yet, and I don't think he has a chance.
I think he's only made two signings, which is compared to
Graham Shinney?
Yeah, Graham Shinney from Aberdeen. I know they've wanted him for quite a while, but I don't know whether it's going to make the impact that the fans and the coaching staff particularly want. I do worry. With 2 weeks to go, with the amount of players that they've lost compared to the players that they're bringing in, I just think
it's the ending of all the loans. That was the risk with getting a load of loans last year and not quite making it. It's that tough aspect where you've got to let them all go now, and they're probably all moving on to probably be in Chelsea's first team because Lampard's then moved there and they've got their transfer ban, so you can't really bring them players back. So it's like hitting the reset button at Derby. I think they'll be up there just because of the squad they've got. They're going to be up there with Curtis Davis and Tom Huddleston legends. But yeah, I won't say where they are yet because they've not been mentioned in mine yet. But
I was going to say, having said that, look, the manager's good.
Oh,
he's coming with pedigree. I like the ambition that Mel Morris has as the owner. I think he won't back down until he finally gets them promoted. They've always consistently been up there for what seems like forever.
Because the playoffs have been a real bogey for them.
Yeah. So I do back Mel Morris to put up the goods and bring in a few big name players over the next couple of weeks, which they need to. But yeah, he's a great owner. I think they've got a good manager, good coaching staff. They just need the players to back that up. And yeah, got them in the top 10. So yeah.
Are we up to number 9 now?
Number 9. They were Blackburn for me.
Mine was Huddersfield, which I think you've already been over.
Yeah.
Now 8th.
Go on.
Bristol City.
Bristol City.
Oh, here we go, boy. It's all coming full circle, man. we may have gone 9 places between. Lee Johnson, been there 3.5 years.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say the players know him at this point. I hope so. It's 3.5 years. They've brought back players that they know, Jay De Silva and Thomas Callas, both permanent.
Which is especially De Silva, to a very good signing.
But they've lost Lloyd Kelly, which is going to be a big miss. But again, when you're 20 years old and you're that talented, it's probably to be expected.
Yeah.
But as I say, I do think Bristol are going to push. I don't know about Bristol City fans. I like Zizou.
Yeah.
I really like Zizou.
He knows where the back of the net is.
I do. I think he's a big force as well. He's a big one to get off the ball. I do like that style of player. Very Benteke-ish.
Yeah. But he actually knows how to score goals.
Yes, of course.
I like Bentley in goal. So
yes,
it's a great addition. And again, they're another team that will score goals. Like you say, it's Jeju, Andres Weimann. Great. O'Dowda.
Callum O'Dowda.
Yeah, I think that's how to say it. Yeah. And Jamie Patterson.
Yeah.
All these players are good,
Got a good squad down at
good
Bristol,
championship
I'll tell you.
players. Again, I think playoffs is a bit too much
I was
to
gonna
ask
say, I've got
for.
them just missing out in this 8th spot.
Yeah,
they'll be
yeah.
close and they'll be up there, but I think towards the last couple of games of the season, I don't think they've got the experience at trying to push for playoffs that they might need to get there. But with that manager and that squad, they might have the guile to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely a long-term project there, and they've done well. They've done well. Now we get into the.
This is the last spot outside the playoffs. Number 7,
Cardiff.
Derby County.
Okay.
Because obviously,
Yeah,
Derby
we've
been over
we've
Derby.
been over Derby, yeah. I don't know whether Neil Warnock will see the season out. I think not in terms of him getting sacked, but I think I don't know whether he's got the fight for it anymore. I can see him. I can see
After
him
last
walking.
season, it was really tough. Right? I think that'll take a hit on anybody.
I think that's taken a lot out of him. I'm unsure if they can just have that quality to get into the playoffs, because it's a grueling. It really is a grueling campaign, the championship, and they brought in Curtis Nelson from Oxford on a free transfer. Really like that, because he was one of the standout defenders in League One last season. Bobby Reid, he's a proven goal scorer in the division, so
he's a crucial part to the reason I've put them where I've put them. If Bobby Reid stays fit and if Bobby Reid rekindles the form he had before the Premier League, I can see him being the top goal scorer in the league.
Potentially, which we'll probably, if you fancy it, we'll make a few predictions at the end.
Yeah, of course.
On a few quirky things like that. Yeah, I do like them. They're very rigid. They're very good defensively. Sol Bamba's, he's fantastic. If aging, but yeah, I can see him just missing out. But then again, I did put Preston in the playoffs, so that's a bit of a bold shout. So they could take that spot. I'll just back Alex Neil's side to make it.
I won't tell you where I've got them, but I have got Cardiff in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. Who's just missing out for you?
Derby, I've already said.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Who's taking that last playoff spot?
Preston for me.
All right, I'm going to do a last-minute rotation because I believe in one team. I'm going to put 6th. This is the rotation. I'm going to put Stoke in 6th.
Okay.
I did originally have them higher, but as I say, I am now just working on the job at this point, just making it up as I go along. Nathan Jones, who got Luton promoted. I mean,
yeah, I was going to say he left.
He did the hard work.
He left. I think it was like February-ish. He took over at Stoke, and he got Luton out of League Two as well, and pretty much got him out of League One. So yeah, but carry on.
As much as Nathan Jones is clearly a talented manager, when he came to Stoke, he played 21 games and won 3. That's not a great record, and there's obviously not much to take from that because he hadn't had a summer and that. But I do think when you're trying to enforce your kind of style of play, it will take some time. If they've learnt it over the summer, I think that they've obviously drew more than they've lost in that time, but winning 3 out of 21 worried me a little bit. But they've also, I like the business. I like Lindsay. They brought in Powell, obviously they brought in Stephen Ward, and as people have said, that is a very Stoke signing.
It is, yeah, but he's very solid, especially for this level. And for me, they Stoke last season suffered from Sunderland syndrome, where they came down and they had a huge core of players that just didn't want to be there, was taking up these huge, colossal Premier League wages, and the lack of desire, the lack of hunger, ultimately cost him. Now, the interesting thing about Nathan Jones as a manager, and this says a lot about him, is he told, I think it's a group of about 8 players, don't come back. We don't want you to come back for training, which I think says a lot about the man. And he's clearly putting his stamp on the side. I think some of the players that he brought in suit his style of play, because he likes to play very good, quick attacking football. I think Lindsay's a good ball playing centre back. He's very comfortable with the ball at his feet, and Nick Powell brings a creative spark. And Lee Gregory just again knows where the back of the net is, especially in this league.
they haven't lost many neither. They've lost
No.
all the players of Eric Peters and Chalet. They've lost Josh Timon, obviously, who has links to my old club.
But yeah, I expect a big improvement from start this season.
Yeah, but I have put them in sick just due to the teething problems Nathan Jones had at the start of last year. And you can't expect these things to take so quick and you can move on just like that. So they are taking up 6th spot.
Yeah, I've got them in 4th.
Ah, fair enough.
Which I feel is fair enough.
Yours was Preston, obviously. 5th.
West Brom.
Brentford.
Okay.
Do you want me to go first? Because West Brom are 4th in mine, so Brentford and West Brom are 4th and 5th.
Well, let's leave Brentford for now.
Right. Okay.
Let's talk about West Brom.
You go on. So they're 4th for me, West Brom.
Yeah. So obviously Slaven Bilic, he's come back. I think it's a fantastic appointment.
That's my only note. Slavan Bilic returns. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you need. I think he's a good manager.
I think he is a good manager, but there's some work to be done. There is some work to be done. They've obviously Gale's gone back to Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
Rondon's gone to China with Rafa. Jay Rodriguez has signed for Burnley. That is so many goals. Do you know, that's a lot of goals to.
They have tried to replace it though in Kenneth Zahore.
Yeah.
He's not the most prolific. He was Cardiff's top goal scorer in 16-17, but he missed a lot of the Premier League season with an injury, and not a lot of the season before, but he did have minor injury problems the season before. So it's keeping him fit, and again, as we said with Bobby Reid, rekindling the form he had in 16-17 to replace that's 3 big players with lots of goals between them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Slaven Bilic's style of play reflects in the Championship.
They've also got a really small squad. There's only 21 players in that squad.
Yeah, they've brought in a Jay from Rotherham.
Yes,
I like him. He's a cracking little player. I also believe they're trying to bring in Sawyers from
Romain. Sorry.
Yeah, from Brentford. I think they're trying to agree a fee at the minute, around £3 million. I think that'd be a good signing as well. Just bringing in that creativity that can really replace those goals left.
Well, they have signed obviously an unknown quantity to a lot of English fans and me as well because I don't really watch the Portuguese league. But they've tried to get that creativity from man on loan from Benfica, Krovinovic. From what I know, highly touted over in Portugal because they've not let him go permanently. So I think he's about 23 years of age. So this might be a real breakout season for Thingy. And if he can, him and Sawyers maybe rotating as the attacking, I think that's some good options.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting times for West Brom if they manage to get those signings over the line. But in terms of the core of the squad that they've got already there at their disposal, I think there's some real proven talent in there. Kieran Gibbs, Jake Livermore,
leaders, I'd say.
Leaders. I don't know whether he's going to stay, but Higazi's a fantastic centre back.
I do like Higazi.
Really should be playing in the Premier League, in my opinion. But yeah, and I really like the goalkeeper, Sam Johnstone. I think he's right up there with the best in the league.
I thought he was going to say Boaz Myhill. No, but I do.
Yeah, so I think they've got a core of a very good squad, and they just need to fill the gaps, and they'll be comfortably in the playoffs, probably battling it out.
Yeah, it always is tough towards that,
but yeah, I think they'll just playoffs. I've got them in 5th, but yeah, I think West Brom fans would take that at the minute.
So my West Brom were 4th and my Brentford were 5th, but I feel like you may have Brentford a little bit higher than me.
Yeah.
So I'll move to my 3rd where I had Cardiff, and we've already spoke about them. Is your 5th Leeds?
No, my 5th is West Brom, my 4th is Stoke, my 3rd is Leeds.
Your 3rd is Leeds, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where did you put Leeds?
2nd.
2nd, okay. So who's 3rd for you?
Cardiff,
right.
Yeah, I had Brentford down in 5th, but you wanted to talk about Brentford later.
Right, okay. So look, I guess this is the teams.
Echelons.
Yeah, these are the teams fighting for automatic promotion then.
We'll start with Leeds, because
yours
is
Leeds.
3rd and mine's 2nd.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I was tempted to put Brentford higher, by the way, because we'll talk about them later. Bielsa, great manager.
Unbelievable. Like the 3 teams I've got in my top 3, they could all interchange.
Yes.
Because the fantastic sides. I just feel like I've put Leeds in third, just missing out again.
I was going to say, are you telling me Leeds are falling apart again, as we like to chant over here in Hull?
But potentially. I feel like I don't really like saying that because it kind of goes with the term bottling. I don't really believe in it, but I think with Leeds last year it was a case of the old Bielsa burnout.
Yeah.
And they don't have a massive squad at all.
No.
So I feel like they got a little bit leggy towards the end of the season, but they play such a fantastic brand of football, such a high press, and they work 110% for the badge, for the shirt, for the fans who deserve to be in the Premier League really. Some issues that they need to iron out.
The loss of Pontus Jansson.
Yeah, Jansson's gone. There's a lot of people sniffing around Liam Cooper, Calvin Phillips, and Kemar Roof. They have to keep those three players. They're probably the three most influential players. Obviously, alongside Janssen, who left it for Brentford over the summer. For me, it's bringing in players for rotation, because, like I say, they're going to get burnt out again and they'll just miss out. But I like Jack Harrison, who they've brought back.
Along with Jack Clark as well. Cause
Jack Clark again.
I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I really want to see them do badly. Just because I'm a Hull fan. But
yeah,
I like the signing of Helder Costa.
Helder Costa's got an unreal signing. Yeah.
Bring Clark back, bringing Harrison back. They've got a good squad.
Yeah, I think Bamford's going to improve this season. I don't think he had the best of times last season.
Well, that's the thing. When they took out Roof when he got a bad injury, because he was so influential, that for me is when the tipping point began. And if everyone stays fit, which is difficult in a season like this, but I can see Leeds being up there, and that is why they are second.
Yeah. They like I say, and they could get automatic promotion. I've just got them in third, and I hope they do go up, because although being a Manc and you supporting Hull, we shouldn't really be G'ing up Leeds.
So you heard it here first, 24th, Leeds United.
But yeah, those fans have been suffering for a long time, and they deserve Premier League football. Should we talk about Brentford then? If you've got them in fifth and I've got them in second.
I've got to admit, I did want to put them higher, because I've got to admit, I absolutely love what Brentford have done this summer. Every single deal I see here. However, for me, it comes down to one thing about why I've put them fifth, and that is Neil Maupay, because there is a lot saying he's going to leave, but I think they can keep hold of him. I really do.
Number one, I think they could keep hold of him. Now, I'm going to dissect this a little bit, because Brentford are kind of one of those teams who are very well known for selling off the talent, and that's what stopped them. I think they got a comfortable mid-table finish last season. But I think everything for me this season really points towards them having a really successful campaign. As they do tend to sell off the talent, I feel like the people that they're bringing in suggest that they're really going to have a go. Janssen, Raya in goal. Those aren't the typical Brentford signings. Go on.
I was going to say, with that selling off model, the one thing is they have lost Eric Conser.
Yeah, to Villa.
But it is 12 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Ethan Pinnock.
Exactly, that's
from
right.
Barnsley. I think he's going to slot right in there, and you could end up seeing him being the next saleable asset.
This is the thing. They lost Daniel Bentley straight back in. They brought in Raya.
Yeah, they've got an incredible model at Brentford, and whoever's the sporting director or whoever's working on the deals and the scouting department, 10 out of 10 to every single summer, because they do the research.
I feel like they've gone like for who they're losing and bolstered at the same time. So, honest to God, when I've gone through these transfer dealings, incredible, genuinely incredible. They've brought in that experienced English Football League players, and they brought in Matthias Jensen, who, big fan of Matthias Jensen. He's a great defensive midfielder, young central defensive midfielder, potential to be fantastic, in my opinion. And Norgard, who I don't know much about Norgard, but it's like that blend of young foreign talent with a bit of young and experienced DFL talent, which could really make them a force this season.
Yeah, I really like Thomas Frank. He's done a great job so far.
Well, he didn't to begin with.
No.
He only won 1 in 10 to start his career at Brentford, but once he steadied the ship, and now this is the push-on season for me.
I feel like... Because there's always one side that just come from mid-table, and they just steamroll through. And I believe it will be Brentford this year. They've probably got the best attacking outfit in the league, in my opinion.
Well, another one is Ben Rama.
I was going to say, as long as they can keep hold of that front three, Ben Rama, Mopey, and Ollie Watkins, they've got every chance. And like say, you've got the Sawyers as well. For me, and it's the last season at Griffin Park as well. They want to go out with a bang.
I was going to say, I feel it'd be a risky move, but if they were on the table, I'd say to Ben Rama and to Morpeth, it'd be a risk, but I'd say, I promise you we'll get promoted this year, and if you don't, we'll let you go next year.
Yeah, give us one more year.
Yeah,
because we're building something here.
That's what I'd say. I think it's one of them. They leave now. It doesn't ruin the project. It puts a real chink in the armour of what looks like a formidable side.
Yeah, for me, even if they do sell them, I don't think the Brentford fans will be too displeased, and I don't think it'd faze the board, because they'd be like, well, we've already got a huge list of 10 players who can replace Mopey, and we'll bring him in for £1 million and we'll sell him on for 20 in 2 years' time. That's their model. They bring in young, hungry talent, develop them really well, and sell them on for a lot more.
My worry is it leaving it a little too late. There's only 2 weeks left, and for example, I don't want to say this will happen, but for example, if Morpey comes a week left, and for example, a Premier League side, but a Premier League side wants him, and then with like 3 days to go, he goes, let me leave, or I'm not thinking. It's going to be hard to get them targets that they want to replace.
Potentially, but maybe they have had a word and just say, give us one more year, let's see what we can do this year.
That's what I do personally.
Yeah, so I've got him in second, and best of luck to Brentford, because
mine are fifth, but we've mentioned the same points that we do think they're going to go. I think they'll go up this year.
Yeah.
And number one, which means we've got the same team.
Yeah.
Is it Fulham?
It's Fulham.
It's Fulham, of course it's Fulham.
They've just got the best squad in the league. Like, there's no two ways about it.
Investing last year may have helped them.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. And
in a weird sort of way.
And I was just staggered that they've managed to keep so much of the talent that they have. And I know it wasn't a successful campaign last year by any means. It was a bit of a disaster. Alright, they've let Seri go out on loan, which in itself, they've loaned him out, they haven't sold him.
That's
so that it's like, okay, well, we'll be back in the Premier League next year. Like,
when we'll need Michel Seri to come. They've only really, from what I can see of they've only lost players they had on loan. Ryan Babel, Andre Schürrle, Callum Chambers, Vieto, Rico, Nordveit. I feel like they only had them on loan anyway, so they've got basically the squad that got them up. Ryan Sessegnon's future is obviously in doubt, but the additions of Cavallero, the addition of Knocker.
Those are the two. I think, forget the league this season, they're probably two of the best wingers that the Championship have seen in the last 5 years. And they've got both of them. It truly is. I couldn't believe it when I saw that they managed to get those two deals over the line, along with Sessegnon, who he hasn't gone as of time of recording. So that's a lot of quality out wide.
They've also got Zambo and Gisa, who they signed last year. I think the Championship will be really a good proving ground for him as a defensive midfielder, real anchor man, I hope. And I do see Alfie Mawson coming. It's just in my head. I'm just that Fabrizio's a great goalkeeper. Bettinelli, if that doesn't work,
I do feel as though they probably need one or two more defensive additions.
They've got Mitrovic still.
I know. I think he's going to be the top goal scorer in the league. I think he could get about 30 goals in that league. And because the amount of goals he scored when he was in the promotion campaign, he was only there for half the season.
Exactly.
I think it's gonna. I think whoever finishes above Fulham, you just got to take your half to.
I think it could be Brentford, but I do think Fulham. How they've still got pretty much the same squad. Yes, defensively they were abysmal last year, but they've also got rid of some. I feel they went a bit too hell for leather when they got to the Premier League. I think they bought too many players.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this, but a bit like Aston Villa have done this year.
We don't want to jinx anything, but Aston Villa are kind of doing the same thing.
Sometimes it does upset the core of the squad, and it does say, yeah, but we got you here, so where's the respect for people who got you here? For example, Bettinelli,
Yeah.
who was their starting goalkeeper, and they just went, well, we'll bring in 2 more and you won't even make the bench.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's not the most fair thing in the world.
But Scott Parker
Yeah.
will bring back, for example, I think they went with, it was Jokanovic?
Jokanovic.
And then they went with Ranieri, and I feel having that good English manager. Was he there in the promotion campaign? He was, wasn't he?
He was there, yeah. He's in the coaching staff, yeah.
So he'll know these best level. He'll bring Tom Kearney back to playing every week. I mean,
yeah, he's gonna bring the harmony of the squad back together, and I think they're gonna take some stopping. They're gonna play a really good attacking brand of football. I feel like Scott Parker could develop into a really, really quality manager. I think he's got all the qualities too. I think throughout his playing career, I think it was obvious that he was going to take the leap into management, and he's got a great opportunity with a fantastic squad to really give it a good go and get immediate success in his first campaign.
But it could also be what happened to Stoke like last year.
Potentially, but I
see more quality in this squad.
Yeah, not only do I see more quality, I don't think the kind of characters they've got in that squad are the kind who are going to just sit back and give up. I think Mitrovic has actually signed a new contract, which shows his hunger and willingness to strive on and really stay with Fulham for the long term. And everything is seeming towards them taking the title and doing it with some force as well.
And I do think reuniting the squad that got him here, for example, like the addition, like bring Kevin McDonald back.
Yeah.
Not bring him back; they've not gone anywhere.
But just bring him back into the fold.
Yeah, and that feeling that people that got you where you are were shelled out last year for people who were unproven for that team. I think losing Andre Schürrle's a shame, but he was never going to stay unless
he was never going to stay in the Championship, and I don't think he particularly stood out too much in the Premier League anyway.
I think Babel did well when he came, but I don't think these losses are going to affect them that much.
No, because they brought in Cavallero and Knockout,
exactly.
who are going to be so good in the creative areas. And I think a couple of these lads who were shafted out the side last year will need a bit of an arm around the shoulder.
I
think Scott Parker's the kind of man who would provide that. And
like saying, I know what you're capable of. You did it last time. Let's go again. And I think it'll work really well for them.
Yeah. So that is our predicted table. So if we both just run through what we're going to submit as our predictions.
Do you want to go first, Charlie? Go on.
Yeah, I'll go first. So in first, I've got Fulham. Joining them in the Premier League will be Brentford. The playoffs of Leeds, Stoke, West Brom, and Preston.
Who will win the playoffs? Because we'll add that in there.
Leeds.
Okay.
7th position, Cardiff, Bristol City, Blackburn, Derby, Middlesbrough, Forest make up the top half. Huddersfield, Swansea, Sheffield Wednesday, Hull and Barnsley will make up my kind of mid-table-ish sides. And just surviving relegation will be Millwall, QPR, Luton and Reading. And unfortunately, League One will be added with Charlton, Birmingham and Wigan in 12 months' time. Do you want to run through your table?
Yeah, no worries. Fulham will finish first. I'm just saying they will because my prediction's obviously right. Fulham first, Leeds second, Cardiff third, West Brom fourth, Stoke fifth, Brentford sixth, I swapped that round. Brentford finished fifth, Stoke sixth, and Brentford winning the playoffs. Derby seventh, Bristol eighth, Huddersfield ninth, Middlesbrough 10th, Swansea 11th, Nottingham Forest 12th, Sheffield Wednesday 13th, 14th, my boys Hull City, 15th QPR, 16th Preston North End, 17th Reading, 18th Blackburn, 19 Wigan, 20 Millwall, 21 Charlton, and going down, Birmingham, Luton and Barnsley.
Cool. Let's just do a few just flippant predictions. First manager to be sacked.
First manager to be sacked. God, I've got to go and get the list out now. Well, if we're going off my league table, I think it will be. Where is Mr. Barnsley manager? Daniel Stendhal.
Ooh. Okay, that's a bit.
I'll take that back. Pep Clotet from Birmingham.
That's who I would have gone with.
I'm going to change my mind. Yeah, I was going to say I've just seen him at the bottom of my page. Yeah, Pep Clotet.
Pep Clotet. Top goal scorer.
Off the top of my head, I'm going to go Neil Maupay.
Okay, I'm going to go Mitrovic.
Yeah, it's a fair enough shout, to be honest.
And
if he stays in the league, Neil Maupay, I'm not going to put him top goal scorer if he doesn't stay in the league.
And as just a last final prediction, who do you think will be like what's the award? Like Player of the Year?
The best player in the Championship?
Yeah. The all to play for best player in the Championship award goes to...
I can't say a whole player because I'm going to sound biased. I'll be honest, if he stays in the league, Jared Bowen will genuinely have a chance at winning it. But I won't go with Jared Bowen on this occasion. I'm going to give it to Anthony Knockout. I think he'll be absolutely class.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was thinking, I was going along the lines of Knockout, Cavallero, Helder Costa, but I'm actually going to go for another Leeds player. Calvin Phillips.
Yes. Yeah.
I think he's too good for the Championship. He's a very, very good midfielder. He's really, really good in that Marcelo Bielsa high demanding pressing system. I think he could easily do a job for anyone in the bottom half of the Premier League. And if Leeds don't go up, then he definitely won't be there in 12 months' time. But yeah, he's probably my best player in the Championship.
I'm going to go with Knockout because he was fantastic for Brighton when they got promoted, and I think he just needs to bring back what he had and has shown glimpses of in the Premier League, like that goal against Crystal Palace. Uncanny for a player to be able to do that who's, no offence, playing at Brighton.
Yeah, but he's historically one of the best.
Yeah, and
second tier players over the last few years.
But if not him, and if he stays, I'm going to go with biased Jared Bowen.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. He's, I think, was it 22 goals last season?
Yeah, from the winger position.
From out wide.
I just don't think he's going to stay.
No, I'm not too confident. But yeah, that wraps up the first episode of
Thursday Team Talk, which is the name of this Thursday podcast, and we'll obviously on Monday have post-match Mondays where we'll review, when the season begins, by the way, review all the weekend's action.
Yeah, that's all we've got today. Yeah, that's a great first episode. Thank you for listening. And if you made it this far, great, thanks. You can follow us on Twitter at All to Play For Pod. Follow me and Kieran on there as well at CHorner399.
And I think mine's at KIE Lawler.
Yeah.
At Key Lawler.
Submit anything you want to say because next week we'll be talking Premier League predictions ahead of the Premier League campaign. And on Monday we'll probably bring you some other sort of EFL build-up coverage.
Yeah, we'll probably do a preview of the fixtures. Because don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, it is nearly a week until the football season returns.
I cannot wait. The long summer is almost over. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you on Monday.